All right, everybody, we are live with the Combatcast. It's the man they call Dave and Chevy. We are going to talk about UFC Fight Night in Saudi Arabia this weekend. Should be a fun show. Before that, we'll look into some of the stuff we got coming up. And before that, let's talk about our great sponsor, Chevy.
Yes, we'd like to thank the sponsor, Game Up. They make a thirst-quenching adult beverage with a special blend of electrolytes. Comes in 4 great flavors: fruit punch, lemon lime, orange, and grape.
That's right. Only 110 calories. It's low carb. So enjoy yourself some Game Up and enjoy what we got coming up, which is...
All right, February 8th, UFC 312, Duplessis versus Strickland 2. Terrible card. That fight I am kind of excited for. Tatiana Suarez getting her title shot versus Zhang Wei Li as the co-main, and couldn't care less about any other fight on the card. So that's a bummer. Probably not going to pay for that one. I'll catch the clips or something. And then February 15th, UFC Fight Night, Cannonier versus Rodriguez. That's RoboCop. That's an exciting fight. That's in the Apex, too. The little cage. Those two big guys. That'll be a fun one. And then February 22nd, UFC Fight Night, Cejudo versus Song, 9 p.m. Eastern time from Seattle. Yeah, Song Yadong getting a chance against Henry Cejudo, who's back.
Yeah, some good bantamweight bouts coming up. I know that Dominic Cruz has his retirement fight coming up, too, against Rob Font, maybe, too?
Co-main on that
same show, yeah. Yep. So that'll be a fun one. Looking forward to that. Well, all right, we'll get into it. Not a lot going on this week. UFC kind of easing back into it with a pretty good fight night card. Before we get that, just some topics. I should talk to Joe. Have MMA news or something. We'll have something for a little picture to throw up there.
We should get that around the ring. I'm
sure it's already a thing, but I was thinking like around the horn or something like that. But yeah, come up with something. But yeah, so let's talk about a few news and notes. BKFC, let's talk about them first. I thought a great show that kind of what fell off the radar for me. I saw Joe Pfeiffer at a press conference basically trashing Jeremy Stephens, talking about his record. And I felt bad for Jeremy Stephens, honestly, because Jeremy Stephens had a pretty good career, but it wasn't like Joe wasn't saying like he was struggled in the UFC towards the end. And it wasn't like, his bare knuckle fighting record. Like I thought, okay, he was the main star over there, like Mike Perry. And now you're going in the backyard of Eddie Alvarez, right? And I would have considered Eddie the favorite going into that, right? Being a guy who fought heavier, had been a champion more times. But no, Jeremy Stephens, man, turns it up and does what, we all knew he was probably capable of doing. The guy is one of those guys that could just, bang his whole career, brutal finishes, and he breaks the jaw of Eddie Alvarez in Philadelphia, in front of a good crowd, turnout, and then he even gets, and I don't take too serious to this, we didn't even talk about this, but he gets into a stare-off with Conor McGregor afterwards, which, hey, if Conor is going to be out of his UFC contract and they let him fight for, I know he owns, because that's cool down the road, but I don't look for anything immediately to happen there.
That's never going to happen.
Probably not.
We're never going to see Conor McGregor fight again. I don't think so. Not in a cage or octagon or anything where he's getting paid. Maybe some old man on the street or something like that I could see. But no, I don't think at this point we're going to see this. Or if this Legends League shows up or something like that down the road, maybe if you run out of money. But
yeah, a big victory on this show too.
Just going back to the Jeremy Stephens and Joe Pfeiffer thing. Shitty move from Joe Pfeiffer. I get, you want to make a splash. It's in Philly, so Eddie Alvarez is your guy. They've trained together some. But you're a UFC middleweight in your prime picking on a guy trying to make money, and he's a legend,
Yeah.
So that was shitty. I didn't like that, but
no, I agree. I thought he was a bit of a bully too. He's
huge.
Yeah, he also said, if Jeremy has a problem, he can fight me afterwards. He get his ass kicked again. I was like, well, no shit.
He's got the record for the hardest punch on that punch cube thing. Punch harder than Francis. So
it's not a fair fight.
Yeah, so that whole thing is dumb. Grow up for sure. Get back to training. Get in the octagon. Don't be picking on Jeremy Stevens. So shout out to Jeremy Stevens. Rough one, Freddie Alvarez. Like you said, broken jaw. In his late 30s. So tough to come back from that. But Jeremy Stevens is still a monster. Still punches really hard.
And good for BKFC, who continues to find ways to promote events, create some buzz, and put on decent shows that people are talking.
Yeah, I do wish that this wasn't on DAZN, though, because I'm not paying for DAZN. But luckily, they're cool with putting their knockouts out on social media, because there were a lot of really brutal knockouts on this card, and they put them all out there. So you can find them out there for sure.
I'd love for them to get like a TV or a streaming deal that on something we already have, probably. You know what I mean? I don't know what, but it'd be awesome.
Maybe they'll get on ESPN right about the time that UFC jumps off.
Yeah. Well, there is a lot of talk. I mean, again, we're just news around the horn here, but I did hear a rumor that UFC was interested in possibly doing like WWE and being on Netflix too, so that's a possibility.
Yeah, well, I mean, they are under the TKO banner. We talked about it some, so UFC. I would like to see them go there for sure.
That'd be huge.
And I can get rid of ESPN Plus, because it's not a very good site and inflation's high. So
put it up on Netflix, baby.
Speaking about BKFC, this upcoming week, we got a shout out to our local fighter here, Brendan Ward, former Bellator contender, making his BKFC debut against James Dennis. So good luck to Brennan.
You got hands too.
You got to be a very brave man to step in there and fight that guy with no gloves on for sure. So
should be a fun one. All right, so that's basically it. I mean, maybe we'll talk a little bit next week too more about this Global Fight League. I know they've had a draft. They have names they're talking. There's been some stuff that we talked about after apparently they were drafted Rashad Evans against his will. There's a lot of silly stuff that seems to be happening too. But
conscripted, yeah,
we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, let's get to it. Adesanya, Imavov, the Bullet versus Michael Venom Page, all this weekend, Saturday, UFC Fight Night in Saudi Arabia. It should be a fun little card. Chevy, any fights on this card you want to talk about as well? Just mention.
On the prelims, Terrence McKinney is fighting Damir Hadzov. Terrence McKinney is always fun, whether he's knocking people out or getting knocked out. Always an exciting fight to watch. And then for us, Zaheem is fighting Mike Davis. That's a good matchup on the prelims. And then on the undercard, on the main card, Sergei Pavlovich versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik.
Heavyweights.
That someone's probably going to sleep in that one for sure.
That should be good. I really like this co-main event too. Yeah,
let's talk about this co-main event. Sharaputdin Magomedov versus Michael Venom Page.
All right, Michael Venom Page is 23-3, 14 KOs, 3 subs, 6 decisions. He's 1-1 at UFC. Here's a guy whose primary offense is striking. He's a striker. He's actually had a bare knuckle fight before too against Mike Perry, a fight that I think he lost by a split decision. He had a decent fight with Mike Perry, who was basically the poster boy for bare knuckle for a while. He's 2-0 in boxing. This is a guy who loves to strike, which is great because Sharaputdin loves to strike as well. 15-0. I think he was a Russian Muay Thai fighter champion as well. 15-0.
That has no wrestling.
Right. Neither one of these guys. This is going to be a stand-up. It has no choice but to be that. He's only had 3 decisions in his career. He's 4-0 in the UFC. And of those 4 fights, he's had a fight of the night, and 2 of them have been performance of the night. So this should be a fun fireworks fight. It's funny. I would have said before Sharaputdin's last performance, I would have probably favored MVP a little bit here, but momentum's important. Sharaputdin has that momentum. I think maybe I favor him slightly, but I'm going to go with Michael Venom Page still. I think this is going to be a fun one that could go either way. I'll say Michael Venom Page by decision because I don't think he'll be able to put him away. I'll say it's going to be a fun fight. Could be fun tonight.
Yeah, Shara beat some good guys. That Armin
Yes.
Petrosian win was good with that spinning back fist one way and then spinning back fist the other way and knocked him out with that. But he's never fought anyone the style of MVP, and that's always the issue with these guys that fight MVP is he has such a difficult style that like leaping in and out the karate like point fighter style.
Sure.
So it's a very interesting matchup. Very difficult to tell. I think MVP is going to land on him a lot early on, but if he gets tired and gets countered, he could be in big trouble because Sharaputdin is explosive and very creative himself, but I don't think MVP is going to be in range to get hit that much. So I've flipped back and forth on who I think is going to win this a lot, but I think I agree with you. I'm going to pick MVP just because he's so hard to land on. So MVP by decision. I agree. Sharaputdin is probably not getting put away.
Yeah. No, I think we all agree with it. Actually, I'll say this too. If someone is getting put away, it probably is MVP.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree with you.
Too. Yeah.
So, all right. Probably another interesting striking match in this one, the main event. Israel Adesanya versus Nassourdine Imavov.
Yeah, Imavov has momentum going to this. That's the big thing, I think, here. Imavov is 15-4-1, 6 KOs, 4 subs, 5 decisions. He's won 3 in a row. He's won 6 out of his last 8. His only loss was to Sean Strickland several fights back, and he had a no contest with Chris Curtis because they butted heads. He's coming off of wins over Jared Cannonier, so he's getting some of the biggest wins in his career and all that momentum. Whereas Adesanya, on the other hand, is 24-4, 16 KOs, 8 decisions. He's lost 3 out of his last 4. Don't get me wrong. Those losses are to Alex Pereira, a loss that he would avenge. Sean Strickland, the former champion, and the current champion, DDP. So it is interesting. I like Stylebender. I feel like giving everything he's done so far in his career, he's probably still the favorite here, I bet. But I don't know. It's probably close. I'm going to go with momentum, though. I feel like these two fighters are on different points of the career. Izzy is the kind of guy who could make me feel really dumb for even suggesting that, though, at the end of this fight. But like right now, going into it, that's what it looks like to me. Izzy's a guy that's, he's had a successful kickboxing career, a short stint in boxing. Now he's already had, 28 MMA fights. This is a long, long career, been on top. And one of the big things, too, when you get on top and you become a big star like it is, a lot of people have seen a lot of footage of you at this point, too. And I think that's why you're seeing some people starting to be able to figure him out. I'm going to go Imavov. Again, much like in the last fight, I will say by decision. It could be a very hard fight for him to finish. I think it should be a fun fight, but I think we'll go all 5 rounds. And I also, again, I'll say this too. Flip this. If there is going to be a finish, I'll say it's by the guy that I'm probably picking to lose. It'll be Stylebender. But we'll see. I have a feeling we're not going to be too in disagreement this week. But what do you think?
Yeah, so Imavov has quietly become one of the best guys in the division. He's well-rounded, definitely more well-rounded than Izzy. He's very tough. I do think a prime Izzy would style on him, though. But like you were saying, Izzy's probably not in his prime at this point. Imavov does like to fight at the perfect range that Izzy likes to fight at, though, where, Adesanya does all his creative striking from that, between medium and long range. So if Imavov wants to disrupt that with clinching and takedowns and stuff, he can. But if not, if he stays at that range, I like Adesanya's chances. But I agree with you. He has a lot of fights, not just in the UFC, not just in MMA, but he has had a long career.
Right.
Does he still have the drive to get back to another title? Because you have to be all in at this level to, get it done. And I think he still wants it. And I think we're going to see him at that top level. I think he has something to prove with those couple of losses. Maybe he overlooked a couple of guys he shouldn't have. So I think he's probably been locked in for this.
Okay.
So I'm going to pick Adesanya, and actually I think he's going to get a TKO because of the stylistic matchup. I know Izzy doesn't get a lot of knockouts in the UFC, especially this second half of his UFC career, but I think stylistically Imavov will be there to get hit, and I think Izzy gets a round 4 TKO.
Okay. All right. Interesting. I'm kind of leaning towards, I hope you're right. Just because I don't want to see the Style Bender career come out yet. And I do feel like if he loses, we're going to probably get only one more UFC fight out of him.
Right. If he loses, his star is fading for sure at that point. Yeah.
So, all right. Should be a fun fight weekend. Let's tell people we got coming up one more time.
All right. February 8th, UFC 312, Duplessis versus Strickland 2 for the middleweight belt. And then February 15th, UFC Fight Night, Cannonier versus Rodriguez. Someone's probably going to sleep in that one. And then February 22nd, UFC Fight Night, Cejudo versus Song. And we'll see Dominic Cruz's last fight versus Rob Font on that as well.
All right. Good fights coming up. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. And we'll see you at the fights.
If you haven't tried Game Up, then you are missing out. Imagine your favorite seltzer and your favorite sports drink had a baby, but it's way better than that. Each can is 110 calories, low carb, 4.9 ABV. It's a nice light drink that is not light on flavor. Game Up comes in fruit punch, orange, lemon, lime, and grape. Pick it up at drinkgameup.com or at your nearest liquor store.